Kim, let me get your take on 2022. After it looks like we're about to finish a bang-up year for equities, 27% gain year to date, the third incredible year in a row. In fact, out of the last decade, we've had 7 years of double-digit gains on the S&P 500. Can we do it again in 2022?
Have me on your show next year at this time, and I'll tell you if we can. I'm kidding. Nobody knows what's going to go on in the markets. That's just the truth. But it looks like we're set up for at least the markets to keep going higher. And why is that? I strongly believe that once the COVID, how to handle COVID is firmly cemented across the globe, we're going to have another leg up on growth. And it's because a lot of the growth has been not synchronized. So I think we still have room to grow. I also think, and this is kind of crazy, that businesses are going to actually deploy a lot of capital into making their current workforce more productive. And that's because the last 2 years have taught us that workforce is really important. And you really have to make the most of what you have. So I think productive kind of technology is going to be the thing that drives the markets higher next year.
So, Kim, I know your background is in technology. What are the tech sectors that you think are poised for some good growth over the next couple of years?
Sure. And again, I listened to an ex-CEO of a chip company earlier this morning, and he's sort of saying, wait for the big fall, because it always happens in semis. But I think for the next couple of years, we're really well positioned because of some longer term trends for semis to be able to continue to go higher. The first trend, and it all for me comes to productivity. Any of the kind of consumer oriented tech is just icing on the cake. And it's unreliable because people switch so quickly, right? But businesses that build their business on productive technology, well, they stay there. Anyhow, so I think 5G for business, not necessarily for ordinary consumers, is going to be a big driver of semiconductor use. And what I see is that businesses are going to be able to remotely monitor a whole lot of activities and allow for remote workforce. And it's all going to be enabled through 5G. So I'm still very bullish on the 5G rollout, and then even more bullish on products that will be built on top of it.
You covered technology, I think, through the big bubble, right? And into the bust.
Yes, I did.
If I look forward right now, Kim, I say, man, semiconductor demand is going to just explode. I mean, we need to put more chips in things than ever before, and stuff you never would have even thought of. I talked to the CEO of Ducati recently. He told me they need a special chip just for the headlights. And I know car makers need a special chip just for the on-off button, the stop-start button that saves a little bit of gas. It seems like there's just unlimited demand, but it must have felt like that in 1999 too.
Actually, I'm going to say no. Whenever that was my first year as an equity analyst. So I moved from developing software, got an MBA, and moved into covering software companies. And when I was looking at those companies, I was really troubled because a lot of them that people love to own didn't really have products. And I just didn't get it. And I did pick a handful of stocks that ultimately survived and even thrived through that time. But this time it really does feel different because I think a lot of Wall Street is overlooking business to business kind of technology or productivity enhancing technology. And you're right about all these little weird uses of technology, at least in the consumer area. And I think that is only going to grow over in the enterprise area because you have a payback. Right? If you can have a payback to put in a technology that gets you better productivity in like a year or less, it's a no-brainer. And that's what I'm looking at, or things like that.
All right, Kim, when I think about technology, one of the mega trends that I hear a lot about, and it's really been for the last several years, is the cloud. And
Right.
I hear it on almost every conference call I listen to, even if the company is not remotely a technology company. Talk to us about how you think about the cloud. What does it mean to you, and how should people think about investing in the cloud?
Okay, I'm going to kind of out myself as to how old I am. But when I went to college in the 80s, what we're seeing now is the fruition of what my professors were talking about then. And what this was going to be was a very connected world. And the cloud allows us to connect. We used to do things on mainframes back way, like even before my time, and they were these silos. What the cloud has allowed us to do is integrate lots of different systems to be able to share information and then like take action on them or store that information. And that's my easiest explanation of what the cloud is it's somewhere where you don't care about, but you know it's there, and information gets stored and shared and processed there. How's that? How's that for a flyover?
I'll go with that. So how should I think about playing it as an investor?
Sure. Well, actually, the cloud is an ephemeral idea, but it's made up of real computers. And computers do two things. They create and access data, and they process. So both of those things need chips, and those chips are different kinds. So the storage chips, you need a lot of those because we are creating just unbelievable amounts of data, and 5G is just going to make that even greater. And Americans in particular don't like to throw things out, and that includes data. So once you create data, it's pretty much there forever and ever. So you need storage,
Yep.
and then you need processing.
Yep.
The odd thing about the cloud, though, is they're industrial-sized computing machines.
Yep.
So you're developing a really big chunk at a time. So it can be lumpy, right? So
Right.
think of that.